I call Jackie Dean.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Happy New Year to yourself and to the House. And I just want to acknowledge Mika Whaitiri's loss in November last year. Thank you for sharing that with the House, and we do send you our sincere condolences. I know it's a particularly hard time for you and your family. I also want to acknowledge, Mr Speaker, the previous Speaker from the Labour benches who stood up for his electorate, and have to say that's quite a refreshing position to hear from Labour members of Parliament, is that they acknowledge the places where they live, their electorate, and they stand up for them in this House. Well, I'm going to do exactly the same thing today in my speech at the commencement of this term. But first of all, I want to say what an exciting, energised start to the year it has been for this national government. We came together last week for our one-day caucus event where we talked about the year to come and what each and every one of us hoped to achieve and wanted to achieve and were excited about in achieving for us in this coming year and the year ahead and the years ahead, not just for our own electorates and our own communities, but for people throughout New Zealand. And I believe we all came away from that one-day caucus, we came away excited, we came away united, and we came away very excited about the year ahead. And I can tell you something that I am particularly excited about this year, and that is going to the Wanaka Show. That is the showcase in March for rural New Zealand, rural Otago, rural South Island. Everybody who's anybody will make a beeline to Wanaka for the Wanaka Show. And I'll tell you what is so exciting about that is that the farmers, the rural folk, the small business people will be talking about what matters to them. They will take the opportunity to talk to myself, to the other visiting members of Parliament, of which there will be many, and they will take that opportunity to talk about what's exciting them. And we already know what that is, Mr Speaker, and that is the opportunities that are presented to New Zealand rural sector, New Zealand small business, New Zealand as a whole, as the result of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And I am so excited on behalf of primary producers because they are going to benefit from the opportunities to open markets of around 40% of the global economy, increased access to over 800 million consumers. So that's increased access when the TPPA is fully implemented. We are an outward-looking country. Well, we certainly are in the primary production sector. We already enjoy the benefits of the China Free Trade Agreement. Thank you, Phil Goff, for initiating and signing that. More latterly, we are the beneficiaries of the Korea Free Trade Agreement, and the cherry growers down in central Otago are enjoying an increased and a stellar season in both the cherry product, but also enjoying the huge exposure that they now have to Korean markets. Now, that is significant, not just for the local economy around Cromwell and central Otago. It's not, the benefits don't just fall to the growers themselves, they also fall to the transport companies, they fall to the whole economy, which is growing more robust because of the opportunities that these free trade agreements are providing to us. Mr Speaker, as the Honourable Craig Foss noted in question time in the House today, the most recent statistics in the New Zealand Business Operations Survey shows that the number of small businesses and the rural sector engaged in export sales has increased from 14% to 21% since 2007. And so for the whole time that this government has been in power, more and more small businesses have engaged in export sales. We are truly an outward-looking country, and so we should be. And so in areas such as Southland, in Marlborough, in places like Hawke's Bay, and indeed in South Canterbury and Central Otago and North Otago, which is the area that I proudly call the Waitaki electorate, Up to 40% of jobs in those regions are in the export factor. So you don't need to wonder why there will be so much conversation around the benefit of the TPPA. The TPPA will provide huge opportunities for businesses in my electorate. You know what? I agree with Helen Clark. I agree with Helen Clark that it would be unthinkable for New Zealand as an export-orientated, outward-looking country and a small trading nation. Let's face it, we're a small trading nation floating around in the South Pacific. Unthinkable, in Helen Clark's words, for us not to be part of the TPPA. I absolutely agree with her, and I'm sure that our Labour colleagues do too. Mr. Speaker, I want to turn specifically to some of the sectors that will be benefiting from the TPPA, and I'm turning to a document from New Zealand Foreign Affairs and Trade, and I'm sure this is freely available, but I just want to pick out some of the highlights, and I want to look at some of the outcomes by sector that we will be enjoying as a result of the TPPA. So this document really only highlights tariff savings and benefits for current trade. It doesn't take account of the exponential growth in the volume of trade that will come about as a result of the TPPA. And how do I know that's going to happen? Because we saw it with the China Free Trade Agreement, and we saw it with the Korean Free Trade Agreement and other free trade agreements with places like Taiwan and so forth. So in terms of beef, big beef producers in the Waitaki electorate. So what's going to happen? The United States, which is New Zealand's largest beef export market, will eliminate all tariffs and quotas on New Zealand beef, and that's over a period of 5 years, which will allow unrestricted, duty-free access into that extremely large market. Now, I can imagine that Alliance Purcury, which has 1 or 2 beef chains probably running at the moment, Silver Fern Farms doing exactly the same, and smaller companies such as Lean Meats, based in Wamaru, my hometown, will already be seeing the opportunities and the benefits of just that one example of tariff-free access into the United States. That is huge for those sectors in my electorate. I turn now to sheep meat. Again, exactly the same story. And if I think about the sheep farmers in central Otago, you know, those merino flocks, that beautiful merino meat and wool, but we're talking about sheep meat at the moment, and the Corriedales from North Otago and other South Canterbury producers, they will be benefiting hugely by the introduction of tariff-free access into TPP countries. Dairy, right from Clearwater Organics, a member from the Green Party, said, what is this government doing about organics? Well, I can tell you, we are providing them with exactly the same conditions of entry into these markets under the TPPA, and I just know that Clearwater Organics, and if you haven't tried their yoghurt, then you really should, it is delicious. Also, Oceania Dairies, based out of Glenavy, which has made a huge investment into our region, will already be having an eye to how can they utilise the benefits that are coming about under this new regime. Fruit and vegetables, again, cherry growers, apple growers, all tariffs for apples will be eliminated within 10 years. Now, for the growers based in Roxburgh, based in Millers Flat, based in Alexandra, and indeed all around New Zealand, are hugely excited about the opportunities presented by that. I mean, Cromwell, with its well-known iconic large fruit, there's an apple up there, and all of those growers will be excited by this opportunity. I go on to wine. Exactly the same story, from Pasquale and Osler wineries up in the Waitaki Valley, down to Roaring Meg, Bannockburn, Mount Difficulty, Felton Road, Wooing Tree, fabulous producers of very high quality wine. Again, tariff reductions. Same with forestry. The Waimati Laurie family forestry company in Waimati, already they will be seeing the opportunities. Wool, leather, textiles, Mr. Speaker, again, those very same companies will be enjoying many, many opportunities. And I'll just finally as my roundabout of my electorate, will talk about Barkers of Geraldine. They are a wonderful high-end producer of cooking sauces. They will benefit. Mr Speaker, in the Greater Otago region, under the leadership of John Key,
I'm sorry,
this country is in very good hands. Thank you.